Hello and welcome to Arcade Couch, the best place to chill with friends, get your gaming goodness each and every Monday. My name's Tom Blight. Joining me on the couch, Ashley Hobley.
Hey John, excited to be here to talk about all this PlayStation news.
Oh, wow.
Just buying everything. And then pissing everybody off.
PlayStation has done some stuff this week. If you would like us to talk about it, how about we save those stories until 2 days from now on Wednesday on Platinum Explosion, number one PlayStation podcast in Oceanias. How's that sound for cross-brand pollination?
Cross-promotion. Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
Okay. We got enough to talk about this week. We don't need the goddamn PlayStation stories, although they're exciting too. I've got a whole bunch. I mean, I got a ripe handful of reviews and previews to talk about this week, as I pretty much play catch up for a bunch of shit that because I was behind last week. And then we got a bunch of news. We got a bunch of news this week as well, from actual announcements to rumors to, you know, there's a whole heap
full
of stuff
gamut
this week, so.
of gaming
gamut,
stuff.
Yeah, we had a bit of a dry patch following E3.
Post E3 lull. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're back. You know, so it's fine. All right. Firstly, I don't really need to talk about this because I talked about it the other week or whatever, but I do have my full Scarlet Nexus review up now, explosionnetwork.com. I ended up giving it an 8 out of 10. That's a good old recommendation from me. Good video game. If you like video games that are anime, that's a good one. If you don't like video games where you gotta click X through a whole heap of text, maybe not for you. But otherwise, that's a good video game. So that's obviously I talked about Scarlet Nexus, good fun. Remake full review if you would like on the website. All right, onto the stuff I haven't actually talked about. So Phantom Abyss. We have discussed this when it was revealed, right? Or did I dream that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, that's definitely something we talked about.
So a game from Brisbane, Australian developer, was picked up by Devolver for publishing. They've done a good job at pushing it. It was amongst their stuff that they pushed at E3 and got a bunch of trailers out, whatever. So it dropped in early access, not last week, but like Friday the week prior or whatever it was. I think something like that. I've got a early access review up. So this is the first, instead of doing, I think the last time I wrote about an early access game, I just did a preview. And then I was like, this seems weird because it's not really a preview. And I was thinking about what IGN does, and I agree with their mentality, but I don't agree with what they do. So IGN does a thing where they say you can spend money on a game, so we're going to review it, and they give it a score, like it's a normal thing. So they give it 8 out of 10. I understand that. I agree with their mentality. I just don't agree with the scoring it part. So, keeping in fashion with other things we do here at Explosion Network, where we actually aren't just number scoring it, our secondary rating system is good old fashioned thumbs up, double
some
thumbs
would
down,
say it's our first rating system.
True. It very much is. So.
A number one.
Yeah.
Double thumbs up rating system.
Yeah, and that is the rating system that has been implemented for this Phantom Abyss early access review. So that's how it works. I ended up giving it double thumbs up, which, doesn't really need much of an explanation. It's like, should you buy, do I recommend this as an early access game that is worth spending money on now? Double thumbs up would mean, yes, I do.
Yes.
Pretty self-explanatory. So the game, in case you missed us talking about it, prior, or you've missed what it's about. It's basically like Indiana Jones. Obviously, that's the first thing kind of comes to mind. And then it's also it's like a roguelite, but not really because you never play the same level more than once. Like, so the shtick is you're a explorer. When you start the game, you enter a temple. You then have to try and make your way to the end of the temple and capture a treasure. You only get one go at the temple. If you die, that's it. Next time you load into a temple, it'll be different, randomized. So you can't learn you can't go, oh, fuck, that thing killed me I'll remember that boulder's there next time. I'll remember that spike trap's there next time. I won't accidentally fall off the side that next time I do it. It's like, no, you fucked up. You gotta, no luck now. It is a first person game, and the only thing you have is a whip. So you're either trying to jump over objects, be that spikes or like rotating blades. You can crawl or slide if you're going like down a hill, obviously. So you can slide under blades and stuff like that. And then using the whip, you can use them to break. You can break vases, which give you coins, which I'll come back to in a second. You can whip some of the spinning blades, not the really big ones, like small ones. You can whip those and they'll stun them for a couple seconds, so you can help yourself get around them easier. And then most importantly, you can use the whip to Indiana Jones, like just swing yourself up anything. So everything in the game you can, playing on PC, because I assume this will come to other platforms, but it's early access, so it's just PC at the moment, obviously.
Yeah.
So when you're playing, you hold the right mouse button, and then when you click on something, you will like whip yourself towards it, be that a ledge or whatever else. When you get the hang of it, you start feeling a lot more confident and sort of willing to fling you off the side and risk it all to make a jump where you've got to like jump and then whip in the middle of the air, not just being able to whip while you're standing stationary, if that makes sense. You're like, if I fuck up the click here, I won't make it. But you start feeling a bit more confident. And that's the game. So like the controls and what you have is all very basic, and that just comes down to you being able to be good at them. The thing that gets added into, so obviously as you progress through the temples, the traps and everything get a bit more dastardly, or whatever you want to call it. Like you'll see more intense like boulder traps or spike traps or whatever. But then the other thing that's added in is, let's say after the first section, so like there's sections to the dungeons, and it will come up with like a little map between each and telling you how far you are like towards the treasure. Like you can see the treasure icon type thing. So after the first one, a guardian, I think is what they call them, they'll spawn in. I think there's like 4 or 5 in the game currently. It's sort of randomized. It'll say, "Oh, the guardian's awoken" or whatever in the loading screen. And these
they look
things,
like the monster from or the thing from the game show, the Secret Hidden Temple.
Do they?
It's like a mask thing.
Yeah, I guess they are like masks. I haven't seen that, so I don't know. But yeah, they are like mask-looking things. What? I haven't seen that. Why?
You haven't seen that kids' game show?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll just take your word for it. But yeah, these guardian things spawn in, and each has a different attack or power or whatever. So like one will charge up and then attack you with a laser beam. Another one like teleports around and uses like, I don't know, like what do you call it, like an aura to damage you, I guess, something like that. So they've all got different sorts of powers. When they originally spawn in, they first spawn in, they're really not that threatening. They don't move very fast. You can, as long as you're moving, you're not fucking around too long in each area, they're not that scary. It's as you progress further into the game that they become a lot more threatening and scary. But that's it for like the core premise. Now, the other thing, of course, that makes this game stand out and quite interesting is you have this asynchronous multiplayer aspect that I think is probably going to change a lot throughout the early access period. I'm sure different stuff will be added and they can play around with how this goes or whatever else. So when you load into a dungeon, it'll tell you how many people have died attempting that dungeon prior to you. And if you're the first in it, it'll tell you no one has done this dungeon before, which is really weird because it's just this weird lonely feeling because there's no one there. Because when you spawn into a dungeon where the other people have already died, you know, like think of a racing game, think of, you know, anything where you can save a ghost of a time trial or something like that. You have other players' spirits playing out their actions alongside you. Some things they do affect the world around you. So if you're following someone else's ghost and they stop and they're all like whipping vases to open them, to crack them open to get the coins inside, they are cracking in your game as well. They can't touch you. They can't affect you. They're not real players playing. You can follow them. But the thing that's always interesting is you know that none of them are going to lead you to actually the end of the level, because no one's finished the level yet. Because once someone finishes the level closes. So you're only going to go so far. And you can also see some people do some really silly things. Like, I know one level, I accidentally fell off a ledge or something like that very early into a level and died. And I was like, fuck, well, that's my ghost now. I'm going to be the one that someone's following and they just see like die 30 seconds to a level and look like a fool. But I've also seen another spirit like that where I'm following like 4 or 5, you know, we're going through this room. Next second you hear someone gets hit by the swinging axe. You're like, what a fool. And then you walk into the next room and you see their dead body, like the dead spirit body on the ground amongst a bunch of spikes that shot out of the ground. You're like, well, this guy didn't make it very fast. Like, it didn't make it very far at all. What a fool. So there's like some comedic things you can follow. Or let's say you, for whatever reason, just spend a lot of time walking around in the first room going, I wonder if there's any secrets on these walls. There's not. But if you did do something like that, then someone else playing that level will then see a random spirit just walking around going, like, what the fuck's this person doing? You know, like, so it is interesting. But yeah, once someone actually beats a dungeon, you claim that treasure and then that dungeon closes forever. And that's it. You've beaten it. You then take that treasure back to your hub area, I guess, whatever you want to call it. And there's an area set up in the game currently where you're going to place all these treasures. Obviously, they're going to add more levels and stuff like that. And then these unlock different whips. And then you can use currency you get to buy different whips, which so far, the only ones I have do different things. Like one, I can't remember what they all do now, but it's like, I think the one I mentioned in my review is one gives you like an extra heart, like health point, because I think default you have 3 hearts, and then it'll give you an extra one, but then you'll take damage if you're standing in water. Another one was you will heal slowly when you're around other spirits. So really good if you load into a dungeon where a heap of people have died. Obviously, you have no control over that, so there's like a risk factor dice roll to that. But the downside was you take damage anytime you buy I can't remember the official name, but the things that you can use the coins with, because that's the other thing. When you reach the end of any of the sections, like I was saying before, how each of the dungeons are sectioned off into like little quarters or thirds or whatever. At the end of each one, they have a little totem statue thing or whatever. And you can spend, I think it starts at 150, then it starts going up towards the end, 200, so on and so forth. And you spend the money, and then it's sort of a dice roll, because you spend the money, and then it'll give you 2 options of like a bonus, like a thing you can add. So it may be you spend the coins, and one thing says, heal 1 heart. Cool, I get to heal some health. It may say you get an extra heart. It may, one I've seen gives you double jump. Another one lets you sort of hover over ledges before falling, so you can save yourself from falling over ledges. Gives you like that extra brief sec. Like there's little power up things or whatever you can buy. That's what you can spend the coins on. But yeah, this whip says if you were to buy any, you would take damage, but you heal amongst spirits. So I don't know. There's and that seems to be the. Oh, before I forget, the other really interesting thing that they do with the whips. If you use any whip apart from the default whip and you die in a dungeon, you cannot use that whip again until someone has beaten that level. It'll tell you that it is trapped there, and you'll only get it back when someone actually beats that level. So I know I got like last time I played it, whenever it was last week, I guess at this stage, I had a whip stuck and it was like, oh fuck. Like, so now I could either use a different one or default one or whatever. So there's lots of really interesting little things, especially since it's in early access. And then the other thing you can do is if you die in a dungeon, you can, and if you're like, fuck, I really want to use that whip, like that's my favorite whip, I want to quick go again, and so you've got a friend playing or whatever, it gives you a little code that you can send to a friend or post on Twitter, I guess, and then people can go straight to that dungeon and try and beat it for you. Or I guess just for the fun factor, it does mean that, like, if I died, for instance, I could give Ash code, my code, and then just for the fun factor, you would be able to then play a level and see my ghost, just for the just because it's fun to see my ghost. Because you're like, oh, there's Dylan's ghost or whatever. So
there's Dylan's ghost. Oh, look at him dead.
Yeah, look at me die. Yeah.
No, didn't get very far.
No. Yeah. So that's the game. Early access again. So obviously a lot's going to change. The early access period apparently is going to run for like roughly a year or whatever, which is pretty normal, I feel, for most multiplayer games or whatever. But it definitely does. This definitely has the feel of potential of being something quite big. Like there is something special about this. It does have that, give me one more go sort of addictive feeling, because like the runs aren't that long, and it's not even that hard, at least at the start. It's like just little mistakes that can cost you for it. Now, I won't talk too much about this because they haven't really. If you watched any of the trailers and stuff, and most of the promotional material, and if you clicked on people like streaming it for that first week or whatever, the couple weeks before they even dropped the early access period, they had like a bunch of content creators streaming it and stuff. There is actually a second area in the game currently that unlocks. Like, that's a caverns. I haven't made it to the end of that. Shit does get quite harder in that. So I don't know how many areas total the game's going to have. I definitely feel like it's going to have an aspect, a more roguelike aspect, where hopefully you'll be able to do things to slightly power up your character to make it getting through the earlier stages easier. Like, think about Hades or whatever, which is weird because it's not really the same type of game. But yeah, because at the moment, my one like big negative is you don't really have any micro victories. So and unless you get and claim a treasure, you never really feel like you're doing anything, achieving anything.
How many treasures have you been able to get?
Two.
Out of how many runs?
I don't know. I think I played it for like 6 hours, maybe. Let me check Let me just do it on the go. Let's do it live,
look at
everyone.
them Steam stats.
Yeah, I was like, let's do it live. Let's open Steam. Library. Why the fuck am I all the way down here? Phantom Abyss. No, not even 6. So 4.1 hours I played. So 2 out of 4, 4.1 hours. I don't know if that's high, low.
Don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But that's. I don't think it's that hard.
That's a certain type of roguelite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, there's roguelites where you don't get any progression. It's just the same thing and starting fresh each time. So I think it'll like scratch your itch for certain people, but other people will be like, why do I keep banging my head against the wall again and again?
Yeah, that's definitely my, like, it feels really good, obviously, when you get a treasure. You do have that sense of achievement, because especially if there's like a bunch of other spirits in that level, because then you're like, oh, these motherfuckers failed and I succeeded where they failed, type
So
thing.
potentially somebody could be in a run of the same temple, right?
This is something I've wondered, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Or do we just assume that they only allow one person in a temple at a time?
I mean, that's possible. They may. I don't know how it works. So yeah.
And then, how different are the temples from each other?
See, that's something else where it is very much once. So after I played for that 4 hours,
like, oh, this one's different because it's in an L shape, whereas the other one was in like a T shape.
It's pretty much that. So after the time I played, I definitely reached a stage where I felt that I had seen like everything that the first area of the game had to throw at you, and now it was just a matter of, it was just randomizing, So I walk into a room like, oh, this is a room that has this swinging axe configuration, or like I walk into a room, it's like, oh, this is one of those rooms that has these like shooty spear things or whatever, So it's that type of thing, and I'm again, first week or second week, whatever early access we're in now, so I'm sure a lot of this will change. And also, as I said, there is a second area, the caverns, where shit gets a lot harder. They actually have like these, what do you call it? Like homing turret things that shoot like homing spears at you, and they're fucking bastards of things. So stuff does get a lot harder in that section. But for the first area of the game, I definitely feel like I have seen everything, like the part that most people are probably playing. And to get to the caverns, so to explain that better, you reach call it like a crossroads, I guess, and go down there to that door. That's the treasure room, or go into the caverns. So I don't know if in like the full release it's going to be there's going to be more emphasis, like need to like risk reward, like what do you get out of actually going for the treasure and claiming it compared to pushing through and going to the next area. I guess that means you just get a better treasure, but like where's the like risk reward payoff there and this sort of stuff. Yeah, but I think the number one thing I'd like to see added is just something that helps you feel like you're achieving more. Just I don't know what type of RPG progression stuff you could add to this to make it like not broken or whatever, but I don't know, something or just, I mean, it would be funny to add, I guess, unlocks for the different ghost skins or something. I don't know, like just.
Yeah, that would be, make your ghost stand out, I guess.
Just, you know what I mean? Like just something that makes it so if you're dying after run, you're like, oh, at least I'm working towards X. I'm still doing something, so.
Unlock different screams every time you die.
Could be.
Like Wilhelm scream.
Wilhelm scream added, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but Phantom Abyss is quite fun. It's definitely really unique. I definitely feel like, it's one of those games I'm just going to keep my eye on and look for the next major update, next major update, next major. It's like, what's this one doing? What's this one doing? As of now, I feel like my 4 hours is, like, that's enough for me currently. I'll just wait until the next patch or whatever, next major things added to it, update. And otherwise, I feel like if they stay on track, it could be a big end of 2021, 2022 game. Like I feel like if all the elements come together, this is unique enough and interesting enough that I could see it taking off and being a big success, especially if it hits and continues to hit with the like Twitch streaming audience and stuff like that. Definitely feels like it has potential. All right, so that's Phantom Abyss early access review. Read that explosion.com, of course. All right, next couple previews. Hot Wheels Unleashed. Got my hands on that.
Oof.
I think we talked about this as well when it was announced. Yeah, we did because I remember adding it to the show notes solely so I could be like, man, this game looks really cool. Like I want to play this Hot Wheels game. And yeah, it is really cool. There really isn't too much to say about this one other than it is a Hot Wheels mini racer, RC racer type game or whatever. So if you've played one of those sorts of games before, then you probably know what this one feels like to play, which is that it's both a plus and a negative the way the cars handle because, they're not handling realistically because they're toys, but also they're just what is it?
So you're telling me it's not Forza?
Yeah, it's outrageous, really. The racing's fine. That's never a bad here or there thing. Like the racing is perfectly okay racing. Like there's nothing about it that stands out. Some of the cars have different boost features. That's the only thing that's really differs them other than, some go faster, some have better brakes, some have better handling, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Some of them have different boosts where they collect them in like, they can collect like 5 separate short bursts compared to another car may have just one continuous bar, and you can use it in increments or whatever. That's like the only real big difference. But then obviously the tracks are cool. Although I think I pointed out my preview thing. They're all on like the orange and blue stuff that if you grow up playing Hot Wheels, I'm sure everyone owned, at least some form of either the official or the rip-off plastic track making pieces. The orange and blue, whatever. The orange is the main color, of course. You can build the swirlies and whatever else. That's mostly what you're racing across. And in all the tracks that at least were in the preview, there wasn't much stuff where you was actually racing across the rooms that you're in. So like you may be racing in a kitchen, and if you look around, you can see you're in a kitchen or something inside of a house, but the track rarely integrates itself into the kitchen. I kind of just wish there was a moment where it's like, oh, you're on like the Hot Wheels track, and then you're racing along like the kitchen table, and then it reconnects to the end of the Hot Wheels track at the end of the table or something. Does it? You know what I mean? Like just adding different sort of real world aspects to it, because I always really like that. Like I point out my my preview. The last game like this I sunk a heap of time into was Tabletop Racing World Tour, which was on the Vita and PS4, and I really liked that. And that had a lot of like real world integration or whatever. It was like racing on tabletops, obviously, in the title or whatever. So, but the major thing that's really cool about this game is just how good the cars look, and that was the takeaway as I put in the title of the preview. The cars in this game look insanely detailed for Hot Wheels cars. I don't think I have ever seen little tiny Hot Wheels cars look this good as I have in this game. Like they don't look, they look realistic, as weird as that is to say. They often look like actual just photographs of Hot Wheels cars, especially if you pause it at the right moment or whatever else. And I was like, damn, this game doesn't have a photo mode yet. Maybe it will in the full release, because I could definitely be like, just so many cool photo mode opportunities with some of these cars. But they have like little scratches on them and dings, and like there's just little details that make them feel like, you know, a kid's actually play with them and makes them feel real compared to just a PS2 era game like this, where the cars would just feel really plasticky and not real, if that makes any sense. But yeah, it's fun. I'm keen to play it. It's so I only got to play quick play. There was like some tracks unlocked. I played for all of those. They do have a couple that stood out. Like one has a spider on the track, like hanging off the top of like where you come under to, what do you call it? You know, where you lap. What's that? Does that have a name? Does that have like the start of the race? But when you go through it again, what do you call it? You know what I'm? Does that have a name? Like you watch the fucking Formula 1 show?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, everyone knows what I'm talking about though. So there's like a spider hanging off that. So then when you come through and you're about to hit your second lap or whatever, it's like shooting spider webs down on the track. And if you get stuck in them, you're like, oh, your car like has to brake out, like revs up and whatever else. So that's a little added extra little bonus, I guess. Something that's different.
Bonus fun.
Yeah, in the full release, they're also going to have so only got the quick play, tracks were all right from what I played, cars with the standout features, racing is perfectly fine. They're having a story mode or a campaign or whatever you want to call it. Didn't get to try that, but keen to see what that looks like. And I was happy to find out that the full release is also going to have both couch multiplayer and online multiplayer, which is the important factor for games like this these days. But yeah. Are you keen for this, or like what's your... Is this up your alley? No?
I'm not keen. I'm interested. But yeah. I'd be interested to see what the story mode is. Is it going to be like sentient Hot Wheels cars?
Maybe. I hope so.
You know?
I can only hope, to be honest. I'd love that. Did you have Hot Wheels as a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who didn't have Hot Wheels?
I don't know.
Or I don't know if I had Hot Wheels.
Yeah, the rip-offs.
But obviously toy cars, yeah.
Matchbox?
Some sort of Matchbox cars.
There we go. And the last preview thing to talk about, Death's Door. I got to play a big old chunk of Death's Door, and we've talked about it here. It was all
Tell me it's good.
It is very, very, very good. This is one of those cases where we was getting excited about a game. You know, we was talking about at E3, even when we was doing E3 coverage, was saying like just wanted to give Death's Door like top 5 E3 games or whatever, but then it was like, well, they didn't really show anything, so that feels like a sucker, like too easy. So didn't include it in those lists. But finally got to play it. I played around 3 hours of it. I'm say I played about a third of the game, if I had to guess, based on like where I was in the story and how much I did and this sort of stuff. So I'm gonna guess the full game's around that 8, 9, whatever hours. I don't really know based on what I played, which is fine. But yes, it is very good. In fact, I would say it was better than I'd hoped, because the one thing I didn't get from the original trailers was just how good the writing and the characters and how funny this game was going to be. But so we'll break this down for people who have missed this and don't know what this is, I guess. Death's Door is a game they're going to announce I don't know, earlier this year, I guess, was whenever it got announced. And it's this game in which you play as a crow who works at like a soul collection agency. Like they're basically like Grim Reapers, but not Grim Reapers or whatever. Their job is to collect souls. So you come into work one day, and that's where the game starts. And that place is black and white, monochrome facility, very dreary, very much has like this atmosphere of everything's dull, everything sucks here. Like the only thing of color in this whole section is the doors or the sword on the back of the crow's back. And then you go through a door early in the game and you go to collect your first soul, and this is the first, they chuck you in a boss fight quite early in the game. Like, here, fight this big thing, and then you beat it, the soul's right there, and then when you go to grab it, a big crow comes out of fucking nowhere, knocks you out, and steals this soul. And now the thing is that you won't be allowed back to, I guess, the whatever realm the crow actually lives in. Won't be able to stay there because they failed at their job. So they need to get the soul back to
But it wasn't his fault.
No, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Need to get the soul.
So bullshit.
To get the soul, you need to, of course, find out who this other big crow was and where it's gone and all this sort of stuff. And the thing is, if you stay in the real world or whatever realm they're calling it, for too long, in that realm, the crow will begin to age, and that means they can die. And oh no! So, I mean, the premise is pretty simple, but it's like there's a thing, there's a soul, you need the soul. Where's it gone? Blah blah blah. Someone has it, someone here. Blah blah blah. Fight for heroes, do things. So one thing I don't think we really, I didn't when they had all the original trailers. I didn't fully grasp exactly what type of game this was. You could tell it was a top-down-ish or whatever, 2.5D action game. You have like light and heavy attacks. You have a dodge roll. You can gather all that from the trailers they've put out. You're like, yeah, okay, I can see that. But what type of game is this exactly? It is, in most comparison, it's a lot closer to being a Zelda. It is not a Souls-like. It is not it's not a roguelite either. Like, it's none of these things. It is a proper, I hate to say like it's a proper video game, but like it's a standard old video game where there's checkpoints and if you die, you do not lose all your progression and everything like that. So I do think that's important to point out, because I feel like you watch the trailer, you're like, okay, is this like a Souls-like? Is this a roguelike? What's the go here? What's actually happening? Is this randomized levels? No. You have areas, you have like dungeons basically that you're fighting through. You'll find things, there's secrets, little hidden nooks and crannies and all these sorts of things. There's bosses that you're eventually leading up to fighting. But yeah, so as you play through the levels, you will basically, once you reach a certain point, there'll be like a door will appear there. That door acts as two things. That door is a checkpoint, and means that if you die, you'll respawn at that door. And it also means that you can travel back to your little hub world where you can spend souls that defeated enemies drop, and you can use them to upgrade your attack speed, attack power, magic power, damage of your bow, this sort of thing. Now, the souls of these enemies, you don't drop when you die. So if you play for 10 minutes, you make it so far into a place, you say you solve a puzzle to unlock a door, you then die, like a door inside of a castle, not like these doors that take you between realms. You solve a puzzle, you then die, you keep all the souls that you had on you, that's fine, and the puzzle you completed is still completed. You just got to make your way back to where you was. So, cool. It's not that threatening, I feel, of a video game. With all that said, it is still like a difficult game. I wouldn't say it's not like a hardcore, oh my god, this is, the next hardest fucking thing in the world. Like, it is, it's simple controls and mechanics, and you just have to get good, I guess. I don't know. Like, I mean, it's all very simple. You have easy attacks and you have a dodge roll. There's no parrying. There's no nothing like that. It's a simple matter of, that enemy casts a lightning bolt, and then you remember that or whatever, and then you just dodge. You get good at rolling out of the way. If you do any of the mini bosses, you learn that all of them have like attack patterns. Like a knight you fight, It's like, oh, he'll jump off this ledge and then begin a 360 rotating attack for 10 seconds, and then he'll be out of energy, and then I can quickly roll over there, get some attacks in, and roll away. You know, like it's all old school, just attack patterns, learn them, go back in, back out. Nothing threatening, whatever. The game looks really gorgeous, amazing art style, especially considering it's like a team of 2 people or whatever that works on this. I don't know how I really don't know how how 2 people achieve this much, but music's really good. That's another thing. I don't know if I assume they've outsourced the music. Like, fuck me, I don't know if they've done everything, but number one thing I want to bring up that you can't really get out of the trailer, I feel, because all the trailers were showing this, you know, like they were showing the art style and they were like, look at these kind of quirky characters. This game, oh look, because that's the thing, all the characters, especially the bosses, to me reminded me of Ghibli films, and especially there's this granny character that's on the poster and stuff like that. She feels like she's straight out of like Spirited Away, like the bad guy Spirited Away, or Howl's Moving Castle, something like that. If you look at the poster, she's the very top granny character. She definitely feels like she's out of a Ghibli film, but the game is legit funny. Like, I actually laughed out loud. This isn't hyperbole. I laughed out loud, and I got several chuckles out of several moments. Now, when I get to the full release, maybe the next 2/3 of the game are very dreary and not full of charm at all, but I would be surprised, because so far, every character you meet...
Is it voice acted, or...?
No, it's just text, which is the obvious success, because I feel like to achieve comedy in just text form is a way bigger achievement than if you had voice acting. So this mostly comes, and I've seen other people tweeting about this in the past couple of days, as I think other people starting to play through this demo, or the preview period, or whatever you want to call it, is there is a character you meet at like the first dungeon or first like main area or whatever you're trying to get into, which is like this witch's castle. And it's this character called Pothead. And to me, they seem like they're influenced by the Onion Knight from the Dark Souls series. That's like the most Souls-like thing, because that's a character in which someone who's always like showing up for those games, and they're always like, oh, I'm totally here to help, but they're hopeless and whatever. Like there's sort of the comedy element of the Souls games, but not to this element. So you meet this character, but the amount of lines and the way they deliver it, like you meet him for the first time, he says, hey, my name's Pothead, because in case you haven't noticed, I have a pot on my head. And then like the character like bows in front of you, and like soup or whatever pours out of their head and stuff like this. And they have this whole like sad story about how they got the pot, but it's the way they deliver the lines and stuff. Oh my God. I can't spoil the funniest one, because it's like towards the end of this character's arc narrative or whatever else, but there's a line that's delivered. It honestly felt as good as, or as funny as playing, like the delivery of some of the writing in, what the fuck is what's Undertale? But the fucking first, not Undertale, the first one. Fuck.
Undertale.
Yeah, Undertale. Fucking no. What's the other one called? I'm getting it backwards. Undertale, right? So the delivery of some of the lines in that, where just just text, but it's the way the characters say these things, and just the way, even the pacing. Because like the one moment that made me laugh out loud, it's like text, and there's just that right amount of break, then the line appears, you know, like it's really good. I feel like they're purposely trying to make it quite funny, which is another unique aspect to this, and it definitely helps with the game, because it is like charming. He plays a fucking crow who's also quite funny. There's like a scene there's actually another scene that made me laugh out loud, where you like, I think it was a random character, wasn't even part of the story I was talking to him, like I don't remember. Anyway, like I click on them to interact and talk to them, and next second it cuts to like, it's not really a cutscene, it's just like you're still clicking through text. But when the screen goes blank and it comes back up, suddenly the crow's like sitting on this bench chair, like a park bench chair, talking to this character. And I was just like, I had to take a second just to look at the ridiculousness of this fucking crow with a sword strapped to his back, just sitting on this park bench chair, talking to this other character who's like telling their sad story or whatever. I'm like, this is such a weird game, but like, in like a really good way. But it's, but yeah, I am absolutely all about it. It feels really great to play. It just reminds me of like, it's definitely, again, like it's not Zelda, but that I feel like if I had to describe a genre, because I feel like we have to do that these days to, you know, it's like, what type of genre is it doing? What type of game is it? It's like, well, it's more like a Zelda, right? That's where it is. It has elements of a Metroidvania, I guess, because the game, you do get like new powers and stuff like that, and it does encourage you, like early in the game, you'll walk past areas and be like, well, how do I get over there? It's like, well, come back later when you get a different ability or whatever. Like, you start the game with just the sword and a bow and arrow, and then later on towards the first dungeon area, you get a fireball spell. So, okay, cool. So now I have a fireball spell, and that means you can do different sorts of things and whatever else. But yeah, it's really good. I was playing the game for however long, 3 hours and a bit or whatever, the preview period I played. And I got to a part where I'm like, well, I'm playing it till it tells me I can't stop playing. And I've defeated the first major boss or whatever. And then I was like making my way to wherever I needed to go next. I got to the bridge where I think it takes me to the next area I need to go. And there was a sign there that's like, oh, sorry, this is as far as you can play in this preview period. Feel free to explore more though. And I'm like, fuck. Like, I just wanted to keep playing. I was enjoying it so much. So the full game is out July 20th. Full game. So yeah, you should be excited to, you gonna play this on your personal computer, I assume?
I guess so. That's the only place I can play it currently.
Unfortunately, it is only coming to Xbox and PC. No Switchies, no PlayStations as of now.
It's a shame.
Devolver does this a lot recently. They really don't have much love for PlayStation. It'll come
they
to
just put the best game on PlayStation first. Fall Guys. I don't know. Which one are we talking about more? Fall Guys or Carrion?
No, it's not good. We want...
Huh?
I mean,
what?
No one's really comparing Carrion and Fall Guys. I mean...
But there were two Devolver games that came out same time, separate consoles.
There's a whole bunch of other Devolver games that still haven't made their way to PlayStation. Like Katana Zero is still one I'm waiting for, because I love that. I would like to play it again, potentially go for a plat or whatever. And that still hasn't come. And that was like 2 fucking years ago.
That's true.
Yeah. So anyway, Death's Door. Play it. I'd highly suggest. I'll be shocked if this game, like based on what I played and how much I was enjoying it, honestly, I'll be really shocked if everyone doesn't love this and it's not in that sort of, if it's not game of the year contention, but it definitely will be like up for like indie
top
games
indies.
Or like, yeah, that sort of shit. Like it's 100%. I can already feel that. All right, let's get into some news for this week. Firstly, I want to point this out because we talked about it, and I just find this whole fucking thing quite funny now. So, Magic Legends, which was a game that we did talk about, it was a Diablo-like...
Magic the Gathering Diablo.
Yeah. So it went into... It was currently in open beta, and now they've announced that the game is shutting down. Not the open beta, the whole game is shutting down while it was in beta, which I've never seen in my life before. It's fucking weird. It's odd. So Steve Ricosa on the blog post when it announced it said, I guess read between the lines of all this, but our vision for Magic Legends missed the mark, but we're proud of what we achieved. Thanks to Wizards of the Coast, we got to bring an expansive Magic the Gathering multiverse to a wide audience, explore new angles within the established ARPG genre. We've learned several valuable lessons along the way, and we will use them to improve Cryptic's future development efforts. Most importantly, we'd like to thank other players, blah, 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 blah. And then all players who spent any real world money in the game are getting refunded. Like all of it getting refunded. And then everything up until the game shuts down in October fully, you'll be able to purchase everything using in-game currency that you earn from playing if you want to keep playing for some reason or whatever. So, yeah, it's really weird. I don't think I've ever seen this. I don't think anyone's even considered this.
Do you know if it was well received or people had been generally pretty negative on it?
So I did some quick Googling just to gather it because I never ended up trying it out. I think I have it downloaded. I downloaded it for Epic or whatever. I didn't even
I'm pretty
try
sure
it.
same.
Yeah, and I didn't even get around to trying it. But from the general consensus I could see reading a few like preview articles or whatever, people are like, it has potential. The in-game store is a bit money grab hungry, like the in-game current transactions bullshit. That was one thing people complained about. It seems to be most. But otherwise, for something that was in beta, I think it was more like, yeah, there's potential here. Hopefully they can sort out this and sort out that, and there could be a good game here. Which it doesn't scream... Like, if everyone was writing, this thing is a turd, this thing is... like, then you'd be like, okay.
It's awful.
Yeah. But people are like, oh, there's potential. And then you see it shut down. You're like, what? Weird. So I don't know. It's really odd. Really, really, really odd. But so there's the update on that game. Wizards of the Coast is not having a great time. Great run. Run at all. Because I was going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance again. But then I was like, no, fuck, I've spent too long talking about these other things, and I don't really want to give that game more time. But I'll quickly mention, I will have a review up. I started writing it as I'm recording it. I'll finish it before this post. But I'm going to give that like a, I don't know, maybe a 3 or 4 if I'm lucky. But I'm thinking like a 3. Like, that game is a turd. To be blunt. I've played some more solo, and we've played some more of Ash. That game is a turd. So Wizards Coast.
This is my favorite anecdote. There was a level that we just ran through.
Yeah.
Playing through the first time, just ran through the entire level, didn't fight anybody until the final boss. That's the... What game lets you do that?
Guess what? I tried because I wanted to try out all the characters before doing my review. So I ran through that exact same level to get to that boss fight of like 2 other characters today.
Still level up, yeah.
Yeah. But it's a fucking turd. It sounds so mean, but it is a bad game. So that review will be up by the time this is up, and yeah, it's like they're not having some fun. They're struggling with D&D and Magic the Gathering games. It's like, and it's really interesting because there's actually a Magic the Gathering set coming out. Is it this month or next month? There's a Magic the Gathering set coming out soon. That's the first time they're doing a crossover with D&D, like crossing over. Like, even though they've always like being owned by the same company or whatever, it's the first time they're like crossing over, and they're gonna have these cards where you initiate dungeons, and they've got like a maze on the card, and then it'll tell you to do so. And it's really weird.
And then a DM comes out of nowhere and starts talking you through an adventure. Is that what happens?
I hope so.
Matthew Mercer comes
worth every dollar if it does, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, side tangent. So I'm keen to find out. I'm keen for that card set, but fuck their video games at the moment. They're not having much luck with everything. I mean, I did like Magic the Gathering Arena. I liked Arena. I did give that. So yeah, that was one point. All right, Casey Hudson has started a new studio. So GameIndustry.biz writes, former BioWare general manager Casey Hudson has announced the creation of his new studio. Making an announcement on Twitter, Hudson has said he's, quote, working with some colleagues on something awesome and, quote, revealing it to be a new company, Humanoid Studios. The company will be working on a brand new IP, Hudson added, with offices in British Columbia and Alberta, Canada. Quote, today we are announcing a new independent video game company built to unleash the creative freedom of developers, bringing innovation and artistry to players through an all-new IP, end quote. Hudson initially left BioWare in 2014 after 16 years at the company, leading development on titles such as Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and the Mass Effect trilogy. He rejoined the company in 2017 as general manager before leaving again last year alongside Dragon Age executive producer Mark Dara. So I feel like this is good news. Casey Hudson was sort of stuck in the EA, I guess, ecosystem for maybe a bit too long, and he's always someone that if you hear interviews with him, always has like big ideas and smart ideas and whatever else. So I feel like this is good to him to be in the independent space, to be able to just stretch those wings and do whatever he wants to do with a brand new IP. Personally, I would love. Because this is one thing that always often bothers me. So if you see like a big name video game director or someone leave, And quite often I'm like, why don't you just make a small game first? You know, like just make something
Just put
small
something out.
and just like just fuck around and just put something out and just make something weird and wacky and fun and just, you know, like just
like Kojima did.
yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like Kojima, of course, goes straight to Death Stranding, or whatever else. But yeah, you know, I'm like, why go straight to the? Oh, I've got to spend the next 8 years or whatever of my life working on the next
Trying
massive.
to make what I thought Anthem was going to be.
Yeah, like why spend all that time and why not just maybe work on something that smaller goals, just a fun, wacky idea, and just put something out. You never see him do it though. I'm always like, why? Because I was thinking about like when Tim Schafer and like when Double Fine was started up and he was back to independent games. He wasn't like, oh, I'm going to spend a million years. Like after he went through the Brutal Legend shit, he was like, no, fuck this. And he just put out like a shit ton of small games, you know, instead of spending a whole bunch of time on bigger properties. He was like, no, I'm just going to make a whole heap of small stuff. And then eventually after that, then we got Broken Age and now he's brought by Microsoft. So like, worked out well. A Control multiplayer game and a big budget sequel on the way. Right, press start. Remedy has announced that it's signed a deal with 505 Games for 2 more Control games. The first is a 4-player co-op PvE game called Project Condor, with the second is a bigger budget Control game that's likely to be a sequel to the 2019 classic. There's no time frame on either of these games, but Remedy's slate of titles are absolutely stacked. We now have the 2 upcoming Control games, Vanguard, a new Remedy experience, the Crossfire X campaign, and the rumored Alan Wake 1+2 games that are apparently being made in the conjunction with Epic Games. So the update on their website said, hi, today Remedy Entertainment 505 Games announced that we have signed a new game codenamed Condor, which is a spin-off set to expand the world we kicked off with Control. I want to take a moment to talk about the world of Control and our plans a bit more. Firstly, I want to thank everyone who's been helping in making Control the success it is today, especially all the fans who love to step into the world we create. As a game director, it's been humbling to see the love and enthusiasm that the game instills, and I hope that during the time of COVID, Control has brought excitement and a hearty dose of strangeness to your lives. Control is first and foremost a world, a place for a multitude of stories, events, and characters. A place where unexpected, strange, and extraordinary things occur. We kicked it off with Jesse's entry into the oldest house, but there is more to this world. Oh, so much more. And Project Condor will be an expression of that. I love multiplayer games. In the glorious 90s, yes, I'm a true 90s kid, me and these friends of mine hooked our PCs into a local network. We were about to have the first LAN of our lives. I was excited to try out multiplayer of a little shareware game called Doom. When we finally managed to get everything up and running, we fired up a co-op session and tackled E1 and M1 together, and it was a blast. Continues. Yes, blah, 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 blah. Basically, you read between the lines. It sounds like they're doing either a 4-player co-op shooter that's going to feel in line with, I guess, Borderlands, or a 4-player shooter that's going to feel more in line with like these a Back 4 Blood or like that Left 4 Dead genre is what it feels like. It feels like it's going to be one or the other or somewhere in between. I feel like that's where we're at. Which personally, as someone who really likes Control, I'm not like, that's what I want. Like, I don't, like, I mean,
yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, I haven't played Control yet. But it seems it would be more towards the Back 4 Blood. I don't imagine they're making a looter shooter sort of game. Probably something in the vein of like Redfall that we've seen. That kind of thing. Like, I imagine you have some sort of team that has a bunch of members that you from whatever what's the name of the company?
The Federal Bureau of Investigation? No, that's the FBI.
Yeah,
no, it was the
Central Intelligence Agency. That's it.
Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah,
it's a CIA, man.
What the fuck is it called? No, it's Federal Bureau of Control is the US is the name of the government agency in the game. That is the name.
The FBC. Okay, yeah. So like a squad of SBC, like investigators, like investigating certain events. Like, it'd be a cool mystery leading up, like taking on smaller missions and then it all having like an overarching story, that kind of thing. That could be interesting. So, but yeah, so four play co-op is all the rage at the moment. So it makes sense that they could be working on something like that. So is 4-player co-op something you want for a Control game?
No, 4-player co-op is not something I'm particularly excited about in a Control game. I trust Remedy, I guess, to know what they're doing, I guess, and I'm keen to see more from that universe. So I'm not going to say, oh, no, I'm not going to play that, but as of an excitement level of an announcement of a Control 4-player multiplayer co-op game, I'm not like head over heels. It's good to know that the other one's probably just Control 2 or the proper sequel to Control. That'll be good. But then if they're making Alan Wake 2, and then Alan Wake is part of the Control universe as well.
How many games are they making? It sounds like they're stretching themselves.
They have a lot on their plate currently. So,
yeah.
Like a lot.
It's like one of them's going to be delayed. One of them's going to be Bayonetta 3. It just never been talked about ever again.
No. So, yeah, as what they say.
We have to work on this one.
How many is it? Let's go back up. So, 2 Control games, Vanguard, or whatever the fuck that is, the Crossfire X campaign, and
I assume that's over, right?
Crossfire X? No, apparently it got delayed because of COVID. They pushed the release or whatever.
I thought they'd finished that. Yeah.
No. And then if you want to count the rumor of Alan Wake 2, and then a remake or remaster of Alan Wake 1, so it'd be 6 total if you want to count that. So yeah, and
from one developer.
Yeah, and then so the control games, they're just them. Remedy choosing to do those on their own. Vanguard is them on their own. Crossfire X is in collaboration with Microsoft and whatever. 505 publishing, yeah.
South Korea.
And whatever that place is that actually did Crossfire, the multiplayer game. And then Alan Wake Plus 2, is supposed to be an Epic Games thing, so.
Partnership, yeah.
I mean, they've got the money coming in from certain corners to fund stuff, but interesting. All right. Press Start also writes, Konami is partnering with Bloober Team, and a new Silent Hill game is almost certainly on the way. It's not Blue Box Studios, but latest announcement by Bloober Team all but confirms that a new Silent Hill game is on the way. It was rumored earlier this year that Bloober...
Sorry, you just ruined my joke about there being 2 Silent Hill
I didn't ruin it. Shannon ruined it. He fucking put it in his article.
Shannon, why'd you ruin my joke?
It was rumored earlier this year that Bloober Games were working on a new Silent Hill game. It's now been officially announced by Bloober Games that they have formed a strategic partnership with Konami, the IP holder of the Silent Hill franchise. In a statement posted by Bloober Team on its website, they said, "It's a historic day for me and the culmination of several years of our work. The fact that such a renowned company as Konami has decided to strategically cooperate with the Bloober Team means that we also join the world leaders in gaming and become equal partner for the leading players in this market. As part of the agreement, the partners declared cooperation in the development of content and exchange of know-how." Whatever the fuck all of that means. Bloober Team has already confirmed in an interview earlier this year that they had been working for more than a year on horror IP with a very famous gaming publisher. Same quote at the time. "In fact, we've been working for more than a year on another gaming project, another horror IP, and we're doing this with a very famous gaming publisher. I can't tell you who, I can't tell you what the project is, but I'm pretty sure when people realize we're working on it, they'll be very excited." As reported by VGC, goes on to confirm that one of the projects are Silent Hill related. VGC's report also goes on to say there's another Silent Hill project in development by a prominent developer in Japan. Yeah. I mean, it's funny that they announced the partnership but don't confirm the Silent Hill thing, because it's like, what the fuck else would it be? In what world would this not be Silent Hill? Like, it is 100% Silent Hill. And if it isn't, like, what? Especially, like, because I didn't like the medium, right? I gave it a 5 or fucking something. I don't remember. Like, it wasn't very good. I didn't rate it. But playing the medium, you're like, oh, they want to make a Silent Hill game. It very much plays and looks and feels and has the mechanics and everything of a Silent Hill game. So It's that playing that just made me feel like, oh, I'm sorry, you don't get to make the Silent Hill game. Now I'm like, okay, well, you are. So was that like the testing ground? Like, we'll make this is our warm up Silent Hill game, the medium. I don't know. So,
it's proof of concept, yeah. Audition tape.
Yeah. Well, maybe it was.
Yeah.
Maybe it was. But yeah, I know you won't obviously care for this, but it's interesting because obviously Konami has gone Pachika machine crazy for years now. You don't really think of them even as a video game publisher anymore. They were at one stage one of the world's top prominent video game publishers with several of the gaming world's biggest franchises under their belt at one stage. Like, they were a huge player. And nowadays, when you don't even think about Konami, hashtag fuck Konami was like the last big, like,
that's the most last prominent thing Konami
thing
was involved in.
Yeah, when Kojima left, obviously that was like the last time I feel like a lot of people even thought about them. Even though they put out that Metal Gear Solid Survive?
Resistance? Survive, yeah.
Okay. They put that out afterwards, obviously. Cash grab Metal Gear Solid game that I don't even know if anyone played, but I'm sure someone did. But yeah, so it's really weird. So apparently they're working on one, and then someone else is working on another, which is an interesting factoid. It does make me wonder if they're seeing the success of Resident Evil. If they're seeing the success Capcom's had with Resident Evil of both these remakes, so they're like the third-person old-schooly type ones, and then the first-person newer age horror type ones, and maybe they got Bloober Team to do one or the other, and then have another team doing like a different style of horror Silent Hill game, if that, you know what I mean, like to so they can have one come out 1 year and another come out the following year or 2 years later or something like that. You know, have them.
Will Bloober Team do the one that's exactly like PT that everybody thought we were going to get?
Well, I don't know, because that's it. See, this is the interesting part. As I said, the medium was a Silent Hill game. Them trying to make a Silent Hill game. But other than that, Observer, Layers of Fear, and the Blair Witch game are all first-person horror games. Blair Witch is like a walkie horror game, you know, like with some puzzle elements, like puzzles you got to solve. Layers of Fear is like a puzzle horror game. Observers, not really a horror game, it's like a cyberpunk horror, I guess. I've only played like an hour of it, so can't say too much, but that's got like a bunch of puzzles as well. So, I feel like they're what they've done would lead them more to go like, you do the first person newer age horror one, but then because the medium was the last thing that they'd done, I'm like, and it was very much a throwback sort of game. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. So we shall find out soon. I assume also
the sooner they announce a Silent Hill game, we can all move on to not caring about Silent Hill games again.
Well, you say that, but a lot of people are going to care. So I'm sorry to let you down. The one thing I find interesting is though, so they've announced this, the partnership. I'm like, is this because you're going to like actually have this announced somewhere someday soon? Like teaming up, or you teaming up to have this announced in someone's stream soon, or, you know, like why? What made them have to announce
Why make this announcement? Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if they'd been working on it for a year and there was no leaks. Or there was just rumors after all that time. Why now? This is my question. So, I don't know. All right.
Valid question.
Yeah. Kotaku writes, new Pokemon theme park that celebrates nature opening in Japan. So I do love to point out a good theme park that I'll never finish on this podcast.
Never visit, yeah.
Add this to the list of the couple others.
But if you want to send me over there, explosion.com/support.
It's funny though, because I quite often bring up these theme parks. I'm like, oh, they sound cool, but yeah. Kotaku writes, earlier this week, the Pokemon Company teased what I thought were pocket monster handicrafts. I was wrong. But then ultimately announced it way better than I could have ever imagined, right? Who's writing this? Brian Ashcroft. Behold, Pokemon Wonder, a 48,000 square foot forest filled with natural beauty and pocket monsters. The theme park is located just behind Tokyo's largest amusement park, Yomiuri Land. Tokyo Disney is actually in Chiba. Located in Inagi City, it can be reached in less than 30 minutes from Shinjuku. The forest has been untouched for the past 20 years, so it's the perfect place to connect. or reconnect even with nature. Pokemon Wonder builds itself as a nature adventure. Here, kids and adults alike take on the role of a Pokemon researcher alike as they trek through grassy fields and bamboo thickets, trying to spot different Pokemon monsters. Instead of plushy toy versions or virtual recreations, the Pokemon are handmade, something that was hinted at in the teaser climb. Because the characters are recreated with leaves or acorns, it's harder to spot them than if they were brightly colored game or anime recreations. The idea is that park goers are supposed to hunt for them and in doing so appreciate the beauty of nature. First, visitors are given an orientation of what to look for and have a printout with clues to give you an idea of where to go. And they've got pictures here in the article of like what the Poké monsters are supposed to. I'll bring this up for video viewers. The Poké monsters. So you'll see here, there's little grass, there's some little grass footprints, and then they've got a picture here. Oh look, it's a surprise Oddish, and then you've got some other little pictures here. They've got it's like a Metapod in a tree, Diglett there. Don't know what's going on there. There's a tiny little Metapod hanging on a thing there. Rowlet there. Omnionite in the ground, a fossil Omnionite. Seedot, little tiny Seedot made from Hokkaido acorn, with a little wooden feet attached. I think this is awesome personally. Like as far as like considering most theme parks nowadays are, so like when we talk about like the Mario one or anything else, it's usually like the top range of technology. So it's like, let's get fucking holographic things. Let's get crazy rides, let's get insane top like VR shit, and this is like the complete opposite, where it's like just little critters, just like there's nothing. It's just it's like a, what do you call it? It's like orienteering theme park. You've got a joke, don't you? Because I can tell in your face. What's your joke? Come on, go. So
it looks like it's gonna get ruined by a strong breeze. All these things will get knocked out of the trees. Things will be washed. Knocked over down the along the grass, That's what you want. This place has been untouched by humans for 20 years, and then now you're going to have people trampling all over everything, looking for tiny Pokemon.
Japan doesn't have breeze. What are you talking about?
What?
They don't have breezes. Come on. They have breeze there. Crazy. Well, mate, it won't get ruined because
one strong gust of wind and it's all fucked. How many of this is going to get stolen by little kids?
I hope none. No, they would. It would be fucking American tourists if anyone steals it. That's what it'll be. Which can't get into Japan currently because of COVID, probably. And again, it's not actually open for that long. So it opens on Saturday, July 17th, and it runs through to April 3rd, 2022, and then it's done. So. Then they put the forest to rest. So if you can get to Japan in that time, I would like to visit. If I could get to Japan in that time point, I would like to go to this place. It seems like a nice little experience, relaxing time where things aren't blown over like Ash says because wind doesn't exist in Japan. It's fine.
One storm and they're all gone.
Why do you have to
Why
do you have to ruin everything? Fuck's sake.
Why are they so small? Just make them bigger.
It's a hunt. It's a treasure hunt. You don't get it, Ash. Fuck's sake. Last news story. Again for Kotaku. Report: Dead Space reboot is actually a remake. Star Wars Squadron's developer EA Motive is working on a reboot of the hit sci-fi survival horror series Dead Space, according to a new report by GamesBeat. Instead of making Dead Space 4, Electronic Arts is planning a reboot of the series with a fully fledged remake, GamesBeat writes. Latest report corroborates two earlier ones by Eurogamer and Gematsu, claiming some sort of Dead Space revival was in works at the publisher, and that Star Wars Battlefront 2 co-production studio EA Motive would be leading it. When Squadrons was released last year, the studio made it clear it would not be updating the online multiplayer game in perpetuity under a live service model, and instead would be moving on to other projects that weren't Star Wars related. Dead Space 3 came out in 2013, and despite relatively positive reviews and seemingly strong sales, it reportedly did not sell enough to please EA executives. Instead of making Dead Space 4, development studio Visceral Games would put on other projects, including Battlefield Hardline. Then, in 2017, EA shut the studio down together. Hope for video game sequels springs eternal. However, dreams of Dead Space 4 never completely died. Over the years, former Visceral developers shared their ideas and aspirations for a sequel were at the time, and even EA made claims that the series was never dead. Even so, many Dead Space previous developers have now scattered to the wind. Former executive producer Glenn Schofield is currently working on his own new sci-fi horror game revealed at last year's Game Awards called The Callisto Protocol. While it's unknown if any prior key staff would return to work on Dead Space, EA Motive has been making new hires, perhaps related. Last week, Axios reported that longtime Ubisoft veteran and Assassin's Creed Valhalla game director Eric Bapazadit joined this year earlier this year to work on an unannounced project. So I know I didn't talk about this a couple of weeks ago when those original rumors were circulating, because at the time it was just like Eurogamer or someone. It was like, rumor, there might be a Dead Space game coming. I'm like, eh. And then like shit really kind of hit the fan this week, and everyone's like, this shit's real. Like, this is legit. You know, this we've now reached there's a slight fire on the edge of the mountain. Must be real period of this, I feel. And I think also because I like Dead Space. Like Dead Space 2 is one of my favorite video games of all time, for sure. Like, it's definitely in that list. I absolutely love Dead Space 2. Because I like Dead Space so much, I think when I saw earlier rumors of this, I was doing that thing where I'm like, don't talk to me. I don't want to get excited. You know, like I was like, I just don't get me excited just to be let down. But now because it's everywhere and I can't ignore it, I'm starting to get a little bit excited. And I will be excited over this idea. And I do think that this is a good idea, because not only has the last couple of years gone, horror games are kind of back after a brief break. Like I feel like Resident Evil 7, and then like the following remakes and stuff, Capcom has sort of been revitalizing the horror video game genre on a big scale part, because for a period there, horror video games were all indies. Like prior to that, I feel like the horror video game market was mostly ruled by indies. So you had that whole scheme of Outlast, Amnesia, all those sorts of games, all the other fucking indie ones that people were making YouTube videos about and that sort of stuff. But when it came to like big scale, bigger budget horror video games, they were kind of dead for the most part, you know? Like, so that's they've kind of been on a comeback, which may explain also the Silent Hill thing, and the Dead Space thing could be part of that, and all this sort of stuff. So Capcom, I think, gets a lot of credit for all of this, if that's what it is. Like other developers and publishers seeing the success of Resident Evil's comeback. But yeah, Dead Space is really cool. Obviously, if you don't know what Dead Space is and you missed it out, it was a PS3 generation game. There was 3 mainline entries. I never played the third one as much as I loved 1 and 2, because they announced it and it was like, oh, it's co-op and whatever else. I'm like, fuck this shit. Like, I was like, fuck this shit. I got so angry that I did not play it. Actually, no, I think I played like half an hour maybe. It was on PS Plus, and then I think I tried playing it one day and I played like half an hour to an hour, I think, or I dreamt it.
I'm like, how am I supposed to play this by myself?
Well, you can, and like the other character's AI, and I was just like, this isn't what I want out of this game at all. Like, it was such a fucking letdown.
Does this make you happier because they're rebooting it? They're going back to 1.
Yeah.
It being more horror than action in space with another person.
Yeah. Well, number 2 had more action than the first one, but it was still a good mix. Like, it was a good sort of vibe and good balance. You know, you'd have one section that was more like creepy stuff, and then you'd have these like sort of intense action sequences. Obviously inspired at the time by more like the Uncharted and stuff like that. So, but Uncharted, I don't want to spoil. There's a section at the end of Dead Space 2 that I feel haunted everyone for quite some time. I don't want to spoil it because obviously if we're going, they may include it if they do another one or whatever else. But if you know, you know, because I don't even want to tease it, but if you know, you know. Yeah, the first one is obviously really cool. Yeah, the setup, in case people don't know, is it's basically you play as this person called Isaac Clarke, who's I can't remember like official type. He's an engineer, and he gets called. He's like on a ship. I'm trying to remember all this. He's on a ship, and he's like called up to another ship who's like broken down in space or something like that. and they're there to like help. It's like a rescue call or whatever. So he's there to fix the ship, and then it's kind of like Alien, I guess, or like typical like space stuff. And then when he arrives at the ship, oh, what's going on here? Oh shit, let's fucking alien. Like then there's like monsters and shit, and you get trapped. So the entire first game is just on this one ship where he's trying to work out how to his crew all gets like attacked and killed, and you're left by himself. But then also because Isaac Clarke's a normal dude, not like a Marine or whatever, that his main gun that you have in the game, it was one of the coolest things about it, is he just has like it was like an engineer tool. Like it was for welding or whatever. Yeah. So it was like this thing. And then the mechanic of the game, and one of the coolest things about it was that all the monsters, the alien monsters or whatever they're, a lot of them, it was designed around like you can shoot their arms and limbs off. Some of them you had to even and stuff like that. So, and you could like rotate the blade and you could shoot their arms off and shit like that. It was fucking really cool. Like all the enemy designs were awesome. The upgrades you could do were awesome. The general horror vibe was really cool. It was a HUD-less game as well. It was one of the earliest times I think I remember seeing a HUD-less game done well, where so like the health, your character's health, Isaac's health was done through his like spine, like on the back of his suit. It has this like glowing thing on the back there, and that would actually tell you his health, and it was integrated into the game, so you didn't actually have a health bar on screen, all these sorts of things. But yeah, I mean, it was like a throwback survival horror game where you had to try and conserve ammo, and you couldn't just like spam shots, and it was you're on one location. You'd go to you got to do this thing in the engine room, then all of a sudden you got to go to the other side of the ship to do this, and you'd bump into characters along the way, and there's world building. And then I mean, again, I don't want to spoil stuff because people may play it for the first time, but by the time you reach the end of that first game, you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, because it really does end on a weird cliffhanger. And then number 2, they turn things up to about 200% on the Richter scale of insanity for explaining these alien backstories and what's happening. And it goes absolutely bonkers. So I guess one cool thing about doing a reboot is they can take some of the mechanics and stuff, cooler things they did in 2, bring that back to 1. They can try and integrate some of the story and lore stuff that they brought in 2, maybe 3 that had cool stuff that I don't know about. But you know what I mean? Like they could reshuffle some stuff so it all sort of like flows a bit better story and lore wise, makes a bit more sense. Like take out the stuff people complain about, work on things that makes more sense. Obviously it would look really good. The game always looked really good. I'd love to play Dead Space in like fucking like 4K ray tracing and all this sort of shit. Like that's just fucking don't even like I if this is real, this jumps to like my number 1 most excited game, to be honest. Like I was obsessed with Dead Space for a while there.
Is there any chance this isn't real?
Oh, for sure.
At this point.
For sure.
There's so much smoke.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a chance, right? There's always a chance.
Like they changed the logo on their Twitter for the first time in like 10 years. There just seems to be too much smoke for it not to be true.
So people are saying that there's a high chance this is announced at EA's event later this month. But I've also seen people say, like, if they don't announce it there, don't suddenly just go, oh, everyone was wrong. Because, like, you can't put all reliance on that event. Like, if it's not announced at that event, it's not real. Plus, you know, like with the way video game development is these days because of COVID, like people always seem to be like running to meet deadlines or whatever. They may be trying to announce this at EA Play later this month. And maybe they just aren't able to get what they want done by that time and they have to do a second event or something. So
no. Or they just send it to opening night live.
Exactly.
Wait for the
exactly. It could come around then. But honestly, I think this is a great idea. I think this is a franchise that like actually deserves to come back because it is a legit, really cool franchise. It has a lot of love. It's definitely like my number 1. Like I think, but it's really weird because EA has like 2. Like so I always wanted Dead Space to come back, and I always wanted another skate game. So like
finally delivering what Dylan wants.
But in the scheme of like dead franchises that I wanted another game from, EA has me kind of hooked there. They got me hook, line, sinker. But yeah, It was really weird though, because Dead Space was like I think they did like 3 animated movies as well, spin-offs. I have all those on Blu-ray. They did like a VR, a Move game. Did that. They did like a puzzle game spin-off that was set between 1 and 2 as well. Like they had all these things happening. There was a comic book series as well. And then the franchise just after 3 just fucking disappeared. Gone forever into the wasteland. But I have this really cool Isaac Clarke figure where you can press on the back of his spine thing and it lights up that light, like the health bar from the game. Oh, so good. One of my favorite toys I got. But probably worth $1 million now. Dead franchise. You know? Will be worth more now. I'm rich.
True.
I'm not going to sell it. It's mine. I love it. But yeah, I'm keen. I'm very keen. I hope it's announced at EA Play. If it is, that's automatically jumped. And the other thing I'll say quickly is, so when that Callisto Protocol was announced last year, and it was like, here's the Dead Space, what do they call it? Spiritual successor, right? Here's the Dead Space spiritual successor. It's from the guy that did Dead Space. Just because EA does a reboot of Dead Space doesn't mean that I or anyone else, it's like suddenly that project doesn't seem cool. You know, it's like, oh, okay, well, the guy who did Dead Space is doing something else. That's still cool. That's still exciting. I'd still keen to see more on what's happening with that game, Callisto Project. But yeah, Dead Space is a known property, of course, and just something I already know I like a lot. So I am fucking keen, and I hope it's real. That's my 2 cents.
Cool.
All right, that'll do it. This week's episode of Arcade Couch. Let us know any comments, questions, or concerns you have for the show either by tweeting at us or joining our Discord. You can tweet at us by heading to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. Join our Discord, explosionnetwork.com/Discord. If you like this episode and thought it was worth $1, head on over to explosionnetwork.com/support us, where you can donate through there. You can buy one of our t-shirts. You can do all sorts of things. It reminds you to rate the show on Apple Podcast and whatever. Do that. It's helpful. Thank you very much. Until next week, same time, same couch. Do that. And also, yeah, again, if we didn't talk about the PlayStation stuff, go check out Platinum Explosion on Wednesday. We're talking about PlayStation stuff. Things. Subscribe. Bye. Hey, don't forget you can subscribe to the show wherever you're currently listening, and you can drop a review if you can. Find more great shows like this and more content over at explosionnetwork.com, and please consider supporting us for as little as $1 over on our Ko-fi page by heading to explosionnetwork.com/support. Thanks for listening.